magic of the internet. 3, 2, 1, we are live. All right, folks.
Great. Well, welcome to the Top vBlog 2017 live results show. It's that time of the year, actually a little bit later this year. Had some things come up this year that logistically and all that made it a little bit, pushed it out a little bit, but we're here, we're done, we're ready to go and get this presentation going. I'm Eric Siebert from vShareLand.com. Joining me is John Troyer.
Howdy, everybody. Thanks for having me again, Eric. This is a yearly tradition that I cherish.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, always glad to have you. And Eric Wright from Turbonomic Disco Posse.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, this is very cool. Thanks again, Eric and John. It's always a pleasure to, anytime I could share a stage with you two, it's a good day.
Definitely. So we're going to be counting down the top 25 blogs this year, but before we get into that, we're going to cover some other information. And I kind of like to start out with some of the things around the state of blogging today, and that, why do people do it? Kind of what's their motivation for blogging, and get your guys' perspectives on this and that, and kind of the value of blogging, how to do it the right way and be successful at it. And then kind of how blogging is evolving, and then kind of the value of the vExpert program. So, I mean, for the why, I see multiple reasons why people do it, and that some are motivated by just kind of storing their thoughts and their experiences on the web, so they have them. Other people just like to share information and help others and that. And then there's some that want to advance their career, so they blogging is a good platform to get notified. And then there's some to monetize it and that. But I think that's kind of the minority. That's not the primary reason why a lot of people get into blogging. Your guys' thoughts?
It's a useful exercise for many people. I know a lot of people have started just to exercise with writing, right? As technologists, we also have to be communicators. And the best way to learn something is to try to explain it. So I see a lot of people start that way, and then those other benefits kind of, tumble on down from that first thing. There's a lot of reasons, but being a better communicator, I think, would be one.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. Having the opportunity to, when you have to write something down and that someone's going to read this that doesn't know your voice and doesn't know nuance, it really helps to train you, whether it doesn't need to be like pure technical writing. Sometimes just a true, like when I write, it's in my voice. Like I read it as me, I write it as me, and people that know you kind of read your voice into it. But most of all, like John says, it's a real training for you to formalize, like, okay, am I sure about this topic? And it teaches you to like maybe try something new, and I'm going to pick something that's completely out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to write about it. And that really forces you to think about how you approach the subject, and it's a huge learning opportunity from my perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that it really does help yourself kind of mature, progress, and grow in that. So there's definitely a lot of value there, and I think that kind of the results show. Look how many blogs are out there devoted to virtualization, over 400 in that. So I think a lot of people recognize kind of the value there, and that's why they do it. I think in a lot of cases, blogging leads to book writing. I know it did for me, and it has done for a lot of people in the community. But I think these days, book writing has become a lot more not in vogue anymore, or a lot more difficult to do, primarily because I think the technology is advancing so fast that books become dated so quickly. And for me, from start to finish, from books, when working with major publishers, it was 6 months to a year to get a book out the door, and by that time, I had my VI3 book hit the shelf just as vSphere 4 came out. So that wasn't too good. But I see less people, and I've been offered book deals. Since then, I've always turned them down because honestly, it is a lot of work in that. And but I think we're seeing less and less people focus on books and look at kind of other mediums to get their kind of word out in that, whether it's white papers or blogging or whatnot.
I think the self-publishing also helped to drive that. If you look at a lot of the folks that, you went through the traditional publishing route, and like you said, there's a lot of infrastructure around that, a lot of process. So there's my Canadianisms coming out. So as you go through that, you really, like you said, I remember going through the old book bin at my local bookstore, and it would have like the Linux Unleashed books, because they were already invalid the moment they were in print, because it was a new kernel version. I mean, they used to come with a CD. It was a whole thing back then. But now being able to move to long form blogs or long form online, as well as self-published ebook and self-published print, I think it's a huge thing. And actually, just on the side, Vladin, who is a good friend of the community, great blogger, Vladin asked, is blogging the right way to describe it nowadays? And I wonder if there is kind of a new phrase we need to attach to it.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Let's unpack a couple of things real quick. First of all, book writing, same thing with magazine writing. I know a lot of people that do freelance writing, and rates have gone down. The trade press is kind of disintegrated along with the book industry. So there's all a connection in there with the rise of social media. We have something very special here in the virtualization blogosphere. I'll take partial credit for it. Back in 2006, when I started Planet V12N, and that gave an audience, it created a blogosphere. There's not a huge number of tight blogospheres like this in existence anymore. And this one is still pretty vibrant, thanks to VMware, and also thanks to folks like Eric Siebert and vSphere Land and all these other things, right? So this is actually a very unique and special ecosystem we have here. What it does allow, it helps people in their careers. It also helps vendors in the ecosystem, have somebody to talk to, since again the books and the media are kind of disintegrating. So another advantage of being a blogger is you can actually have some relationships with some of your vendors in a different way. Blogs aren't just text anymore. Like, blogging is a terrible name, but like, what else do we have? There's a lot of people doing video stuff. There's a lot of people doing podcasting. We'll talk about some of them today. There are people doing, and the format, right? Just a blogger. What about group blogs? What about writing on Medium? What about somebody who shares to Facebook or does tweet storms? I mean, those are all, I think there's ways of newsletters, right? I do a newsletter occasionally, right? There are lots of ways of communicating, but I think that the urge is there. It's just, you got to figure out how to be a personal publisher or get into a publishing distribution channel.
Yeah, totally agree.
That was a lot. Sorry.
No, that's good perspective in that. So great, yeah. And so the vExpert program, John, you created that back in 2009, and it still exists today. It has grown substantially since, from its initial roots of about 300 vExperts up to about 1,600 these days. I've been a little bit vocal on, I kind of think that's a little bit too much, and more of, not to the fact that it's too much, but it doesn't really give recognition to some people that maybe go above and beyond and things like that. And I know, John, at one time you had planned a vExpert Plus program and that, and I personally talked to Corey in that, and Corey, I think, kind of agrees in that. And I think he's working kind of behind the scenes on trying to maybe segregate those vExperts into categories or whatnot to give them, different types of recognition in that. But it's still a great program. I totally appreciate VMware doing this every year. It's been, I think, nine years now, and I think 2009 was that first class. I've tried to find the list of the original vExperts. I cannot find that anywhere.
I don't have it. It's lost in the bowels of time or a hard drive somewhere, I think. I don't think maybe Google Docs wasn't around at that point.
Did you send an email out to people back then? Because I don't even have one in my inbox saying.
I did. I certainly did.
Really? Okay. Maybe I missed it.
First got to go back into the Library of Congress for that one.
We might be the way back. Somebody might have one somewhere. I think people don't quite realize what the vExpert program is or did or for. They don't recognize kind of the subtlety of what we did. A lot of people think these programs are just kind of award programs to pat people in the head and recognition, and that's certainly a piece of it. The vExpert program was specifically designed to be an engine and a factory that created experts or evangelists or people that knew a lot about VMware and were talking about it, right? So there's a lot of elements that go into that. Now, there are other purposes, right? It turns out networking was like a super important part of being a vExpert and a super important value. And again, if you're a blogger, you can, in virtualization, you can get in there fairly easily. So that bigger group has some different properties, which I think are still super valuable, both for the participants and for VMware. So you always want to have a win-win. But I think people don't always recognize exactly what we were trying to do and that we did. And I think, sure, the award program, whatever, but that connection that people can still make to help their careers is, I think still one of the more important things about being a vExpert and about blogging, frankly.
Yeah, for sure.
I think all of these programs, they age and evolve well. And what we find is that the originators, we have a very, like, people that were early on in these programs, there's always the sense that it kind of jumped the shark or whatever it is. But what's curious is the growth. And even if it doesn't necessarily grow, but you have a consistent audience of a particular size, and that audience tends to roll over. I mean, some of us still listen to the music that we loved in high school, but I also still listen to something that came out last week. And so some of us only listen to what we listened to in high school. So what I love is that I always temper when people say like, oh, I don't feel the vExperts as valuable anymore. And I kind of ask them, well, what was it that you believed that was valuable to you? And what was valuable to the rest of the people in the program and to the people outside the program? Because I really think that's where the value comes, not to the, at this point, 800 to 900 people or whatever. There's a good number of folks involved, right? But it's what you're giving them to amplify and empower other folks outside that program. And that's what I love, is this kind of second and third stage reach that any of this stuff has. And blogging got, tagged with social media. And we moved to these different medium to get it out there, quite literally, medium's one place to go. But I love it that I like the amplification, and I'm always a little bit hurt when I see somebody say that it's not good anymore. It's evolved, and I think we all kind of have to evolve along with it.
Yeah, and I think VMware's done a pretty good job of, maintaining it and keeping it going. So it's definitely appreciated. So how did this all start? Top vBlog and that. So it all started back in 2008. I used to put together lists of the top 10 this, top 10 that, and whatnot. So one day I decided to do the top 10 blogs that VMware admins should read. And back then you could see some still familiar names in there that are up there today in the top 10, and that some that have fallen off. But I kind of just and back then there wasn't more than 20, 30 active bloggers in that. It wasn't really that big. So I put together this list, and then, the following year, I kind of said, okay, well, why am I deciding? Why don't we let people vote on this and decide and, put together like that? So 2009 was when I first did the public voting, and that back then, again, it was fairly small. I think I did 20 blogs from a list that I had. And from there, it's kind of steadily evolved up until 2015. You see over 400 blogs. 2016, I put in the kind of the controls of the 10 post minimum just to make sure. This is about top bloggers, so obviously you need to be a little bit active to do that. A lot of people were getting in just based on name recognition and not the fact that they've actually did a lot of content that year, and that. So that kind of brought the numbers down a bit. As every year, I think that kind of disqualifies maybe 50 to 100 blogs. Based on people that haven't got that 10 post minimum. So you can see, it's evolved. There's a lot of blogs, a lot of people voting on it. So we're definitely getting, the public's opinion on who their favorite bloggers are. This year we did something a little bit different and just didn't make it about the popular vote, but also added things, point modifiers that were more about the blog itself and the content that somebody produced. And we'll talk about those in a minute. But first, hey, Turbonomic made this all possible and that. So, what do you guys got going on? You're going to be at VMworld. Encourage everybody to stop by your booth, see you and that.
Yeah, this is, obviously, thank you, Eric, for all you've done over these years. It's as somebody who's been able to watch it and then become a part of it as somebody who's entering their blog into it, and then being able to be on the other side where I now, for 3 years now, or 3 years as of this VMworld, that I work with Turbonomic. Then VM Turbo, for those who are old school. That's right. I got the old school shirt on there from back in the day. I see Eric's got one as well. It's really cool to be able to share what you do with our community, and also to share our community to the rest of the vExpert and beyond, because there's a lot more than just straight traditional virtualization that our bloggers in this list are going to talk about, which is really, really cool. We've got podcasts, we got lots of things. So for me, it was very important when I came on board to help to keep that message going. And the funny thing, I didn't even need to do it. So my team at Turbonomics, very, very strong on community development, community growth, and understanding the value. And we're huge fans. So it's the first time, long time, where we've always been fans, and it's kind of cool to participate. We'll be at booth 1219 this year. And we've got some really, really neat stuff going on in the booth. Not as much around like creating the big wow show. We do have a wicked cool booth, as my friends in Boston would say. But we've got some book signings. We've got some other really neat giveaways that are going to go on. So just kind of watch the Turbonomic Twitter and keep an eye on my blog, and we'll share out stuff that goes on. But again, so 12/19 on the floor. I'll be there in advance and right up to the end of the event. So I'm hoping to meet a lot of folks through the community lounge, VM Village as we call it now, and beyond.
Great. Well, your support, for the community and for all the bloggers, is definitely appreciated. So thank you for that. All right, so what's new this year in that? Had a new survey platform. I've been using Survey Gizmo for many years, but they totally jacked their rates up this year, and it got very, very expensive in that because I need some of their advanced features in that. So I spent months looking for a platform that had a lot of the advanced, like piping and some features that we needed to do this so you could rank people and that. And I finally found one on Question Pro and that. So that worked out pretty good, actually. That's probably going to be my new platform going forward. The new scoring methods, we have the first we have the number of posts that somebody has. So there's a point modifier based on somebody that has 100 plus posts is going to be weighted a little bit higher than somebody that has only 11 posts, and that. So that kind of helps recognize the content and the what the blogger is actually producing. We also did something different too, because a blog isn't just about throwing something out there. You have to have something that's a good user experience for people that are reading your blog. So I did a metrics from Google PageSpeed, and that, which goes out and analyzes every blog and ranks it for how well optimized it is and how efficient it is, and that produces a score. So I have a point modifier for that. Every blogger starts with 200 points, and then based on the percent that they got with Google PageSpeed, that would go down from that. A new blogger giveaway. I've done in the past years, I've done the coins and that, and I like the coins, but the one thing about that is it's hard for bloggers to show that and kind of display it off. They could stick it on a desk or something, but a lot of people don't see that. So this year I was looking to do lapel pins and that, and I worked with one company and that kind of fell through on that. So because of the time crunch, what I've done is done these kind of cool buttons here, and I don't know if you can see it that well. And I was able to do with the buttons, where before I just had top 50. Now I can customize them to the top 10, top 25, and top 50 and that. So every blogger will get some of these, and that will be given away at VMworld. There'll be some at the Turbonomic booth, and I'll have some to give out to bloggers. So that will be what they get this year. I also did this for those OGV experts, this cool pin with 9 stars and that. So if you're one of these, come find me at VMworld. And this will help recognize that vExpert status, that you're one of the originals.
That's awesome. That's a lot of work. Thank you, Eric, for all that.
New categories. We added favorite female blogger and favorite non-English blog. There are a lot of non-English blogs out there. Duncan and Frank. Duncan was on top for, I think almost every year since 2009 and that. And they chose to step aside this year and that, and let other bloggers have a chance. The 10 post minimum again, and then of course the same great sponsor this year.
It's like when the year that at some point the top 100 countdowns at New Year's Eve, when they took Stairway to Heaven and Jump by Van Halen off the roster. It was time to go to the new kids and see what's going on. So kudos to Duncan and Frank. They obviously have contributed and continue to contribute hugely with their content and through community interactions. Both of them have gone to really, really cool roles outside and inside VMworld. They do lots of stuff. So it's very cool. So, big ups. They have a virtual top spot, on that list all the time.
For sure.
We can call them vBloggers Emeritus, if that wouldn't be.
There you go.
So some stats this year, 1,600 plus votes again, about the same as last year. 273 blogs. Like I said, I think we cut out about 60 to 70 with a 10 post minimum. 62 new blogs. One new blog that started last year made the top 50. 11 blogs that weren't there in the top 50 last year made it to the top 50. 8 blogs that weren't there last year made it to the top 25. 4 new blogs in the top 10, and one blogger actually, we know Duncan and Frank were out, but actually Alan, I think he didn't qualify because he only had like I think 8 posts last year, and that he was in the top 10 last year, and that so he must be preoccupied. And then there was 9 position changes, so almost every position changed except for one in the top 10, which we'll find out very soon.
It's incredible to see the numbers when you think of how many people are continuing to grow this ecosystem. It's really, really wild. So it's glad to watch it keep growing.
Yeah, definitely. It shows no sign of slowing down at all.
Yes, I mean, especially one of my predictions is that we'll see more group blogs because it's so hard to maintain an individual blog. But almost all those blogs to a blog are individual blogs. So kudos to everybody.
Yeah, there's a couple that are groups and that, but yeah, for the most part, probably 99% are individuals blogging. Here's the process of we basically have a total number of points, which kind of ranks all the bloggers from 1 to 25 in this countdown, but 1 to all the way down to the bottom. So how it works is people pick their 12 favorite blogs. It used to be 10, but I made it to 12 because people always say I have a hard time choosing 10. I need more, so I made it 12. They then rank those, and so you rank your favorite blog up top, and that gets the most points, 12 points. That helps recognize the people that are more people favor more than the ones that are on the bottom there, and that's the number of points that a blog would get based on the public voting. The new point modifiers I have this year are the number of posts in 2016, 2 per post with 400 max because there were some super bloggers out there that were getting pretty high, so I kind of had to cap that. And then the Google page speed score, which, this is good just for every blogger in general to go out and see how their blog performs, because ultimately you can turn off users if you got a slow blog or if you had a lot of things that are kind of unwieldy and not laid out right. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is blog layouts and that people don't do that in a way that's easy to consume for people reading your blog and not do some of the basic things like putting dates on your blog posts and that. But we'll talk about page speeds in a moment and that, but that's essentially every blog gets those 200 points, and then you get a percentage of that based on your page speed. So your total point score is the voting points plus your post points plus page speed points.
Nice. Does page speed include anything about mobile, Eric? Because obviously
there's a tab for that mobile.
Yeah, when I'm on this and your blog still looks like it's formatted from 2008, boy, it's hard to read.
Yeah, I got a screenshot of it actually that shows there's a mobile tab on there to tell how well it's optimized for mobile. So what it does, I use a site called GT Metrics, and if you're a blogger, you should go there. It'll analyze your site with not just page speed, but something called Why Slow, and it provides a complete overview of how long every element on your blog is taken to load. So you may find some images are slow and things like that, or some JavaScript and that, and it'll give you a whole bunch of recommendations on how to optimize that. I think I was down in the 50-60% range until I went out and did the optimization and that, and I got mine up to around the 80-90% after that. Images tends to be, if you don't optimize your images, that's one of the number 1 causes of slowness. So I went through all the recommendations. I went to a caching server. Cloudflare is free to use. You can create a free account there. So essentially, a lot of your content will be cached on their edge servers, which will greatly speed up your blog. So show you some screenshots here of what it looks like. So basically, GT Metrics here will give you a page speed score and a Why Slow score. It will give you the kind of all the recommendations here on what you could do to optimize your blog, based on the priority and kind of what's causing it to slow down. There's a waterfall page, which is pretty cool because that shows you every image, every element of your blog loading, and it times it all for you. And I think in one of these tabs here, there's a mobile one as well. That'll give you the kind of the mobile thing on here, and that this is the waterfall chart here, and that'll show you every single element of your blog and how long it's taken to load. So it was hugely useful for me. I found one of my plugins, my ad plugins that I use that I spent money on, and that was taking forever and really bogging down. So I ended up getting rid of it and buying another plugin in that. But this was super helpful for troubleshooting what's taking the longest to load on my blog.
It's pretty humbling when you look at behind the scenes. We think about technology and ourselves, but yet we're content creators and not necessarily full stack engineers, i.e., we know how to tune a website. So it's good to be able to go in and find this out. Definitely a huge lift for other bloggers that want to dig in. And maybe what we can do is other folks that are in the community, if you have good learnings that you have or plugins and stuff. I know I did a podcast with Edward Haletke, and he went through his kind of laundry list of things that he learned about his site and some good ways to optimize and increase speed. So there's some neat stuff there. Yeah, a few other folks in the community have shared good stories, and maybe, hint, hint, wink, wink, maybe next year we'll see a lot of how to improve your blog speed.
Yeah, so they're all ranked this year, so you'll see your score on your blog. So I went through and had to run page speed on all the blogs, which took quite a while.
Nice, shaming. I like it. So what I love about this is Eric Siebert. This is actually a blog post right here, right? We're blogging, we're video blogging. I also am laughing at if there are any PR people watching who just want us to get to the blog list so they know who they can send emails to. We've now made them go through a blog analysis section.
Oh, hey, good info though. All right, countdown begin. Counting down from 25 down to 1. I'll start with 25, and you guys will just switch off, I guess. And I know Eric, you want to take the next one, and John after that, and we'll go between us.
Sure.
So at number 25, hey, right there.
That person looks familiar.
Yeah. Mr. Disco Posse in that. Last year, he was at 39, moved up 14 spots. You could use a little work on your blog. You were at 63%. So
yeah,
that's his call. Go load GT metrics and get that optimized. But congrats for making that top 25.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely this is the rare one where I can accept it on behalf of myself here. Big thanks to the community, to all the folks that voted. I mean, this is humbling to be able to be a part of it and to move up in the ranks. And hopefully, definitely, I love to keep giving good content. We grow our community here through the vExpert community and beyond. And yeah, that was a big, huge opportunity. Now, I know I've had challenges with page speed, so it's nice to see it in action. And I think GT Metrics is going to get a few scans for me, and make sure I can speed that up. But thank you to everybody who voted and got me on this list. This is really cool.
Good job. Congrats.
Okay. Well, then number 24 is Cody Bunch and Professional VMware. This is a little bit of a ringer. Although Cody is an amazing mensch and an early blogger and organizer of many things. It looks like people are also voting for vBrownBag. vBrownBag, if folks don't know, obviously a collective, most folks do that are listening to this, collective of volunteers who do video podcasts, who do very technical trainings, and then also a group of people led by Alistair Cook who do tech talks at events. And in fact, at this year at VMworld in Vegas, the tech talks are going to be bigger and better than ever because they're in the show builder. So if you have a tech talk this year, you will actually have an audience at the show as well as being streamed live online. vBrownBag is fundamental, a huge resource. And I can't thank the group of people and Cody, the person that kicked it all off, enough for what they do.
Yeah, they've done a great job of maintaining and evolving that over there. They've branched out in a lot of different areas, what they're doing at VMworld and whatnot and that. So great job, Cody, and all the crew behind the vBrownBag stuff. It's really good.
Yeah, I can mention Jonathan Frappier, and I'm gonna forget a bunch of other people, but
Damien and Alistair, yeah, a couple others, but yeah, there's a lot of good work there.
A lot of vBrownBag alumni will be at many events coming up in Las Vegas and in Barcelona, so make sure you seek them out.
For sure.
Number 23. So for those folks who don't know Andrea Morrow, he's been a fervent blogger from day one. Andrea's one of those fellows. He carves out content at a rate that I can't even keep up with reading it as fast as he writes it. What it's good is he really kind of taught a lot of us in the blogging community about find something interesting, get it out there, and then kind of iterate on that. Between that and, of course, his really long-form content, Andreas does a lot of stuff, obviously, in early VCDX, a lot of the VMware Education Program. He was a great proponent for that. Andrea held the top in cloud credibility for the CloudTread site for the first year, I think, and then he actually had to opt out so that someone else could get up there. So it's really cool, and I've been lucky enough to meet Andrea in person at an event which was Tech Field Day, and he continues to be someone I absolutely recommend that you read, and you get multiple languages, which is kind of cool. So he writes both in Italian and in English, so it's very, very neat. It's good to see him on the list.
Yeah, 136 blog posts, so he's real active.
He's a great guy.
At 22 is Verten.net, Florian, and that he moved up 18 spots in that. So great work, and that not sure if I've met him, and that I know he produces a lot of great content on his blog, and that and he's done a lot of good work. But do you guys know him at all, or?
That's what's really neat about this. It's funny, like we go through the list and sometimes you realize like, wow, how do I not know this person? And then we may have seen them at events. So admittedly, I haven't met, or I may have met Florian in person. I apologize if I have and I don't remember, but Florian's content's really solid. And so it's definitely, this is the cool thing is people can have a great persona without having to be, out and about and really, visible in the front lines sometimes, which is cool.
Well, I think Florian wasn't one of that original OG gang back in 2008 when we all maybe started. But I think it's an example of how people can move into this community. I sure hope that this community isn't cliquish and isn't standoffish. I think it's definitely a global and welcoming community.
Yeah, and I believe it is.
Yeah, the best part about all of us is that we love coaching and we are player coaches, and we ultimately drive a great continuing flourishing ecosystem as we go.
Well, I'll take number 21, Virtual Jad El-Zain. Jad is also a fairly prolific blogger at VMware, specializes in vRealize, right? And so he's been instrumental in doing a lot of the, leading a lot of the explanation, has been consistently putting it out there, is also on the road, humping it and talking to customers and partners. So again, somebody there, I think, when you talk about somebody, there's many people here who work for vendors, and I think if you talk, and sometimes when you do, as you both do, right, you work for technology vendors, it is sometimes hard to forget that part of your job is communication. And, I think Jad is a great example of incorporating that into his work stream, as the jargon goes.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Jad at one of the events. He was giving a keynote and I was in the alternate keynote, and it was funny that we actually kind of fed each other's content very well, and just great presenter, great person to chat with, and tons of great content.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever met him in that. I do remember a couple years ago, though, that he wasn't on the ballot, and everybody kept saying, "Hey, why isn't Jad on the ballot?" and that, and somehow he got missed, or I didn't know his blog to put it on there, and he didn't submit. So, but I heard a lot of great things about him in that, and glad to see he's kind of where he's at with his content. A lot of people appreciate it.
Mr. Webster. So this is, for those folks who don't already know Michael Webster, he's a longtime participant in the community. Michael has a very, very interesting set of topics that he covers, especially that are much, much deeper. He's a great long form writer, super technical, VCDX, as well as an NPX, and he's been writing Long White Clouds for a while, and his content very solid, especially around performance stuff around SQL. It's great to have Michael on your side if you want to debunk some Oracle licensing challenges and Oracle performance challenges. So he's got a lot of really neat, deeper level content, and it's really cool to watch his continued growth and again, moving up the ranks up to 7 points from last year, which is very, very cool.
Actually, down.
Oh, sorry, down. Oh my goodness, there you go. Well,
he's consistent, right in that range, and that he just moves around a little bit every year.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, he sits in this top group, and for a reason. I very rarely bump into somebody who hasn't run into his content at one point. And also, he's just a good fellow to chat with again, and he's very community oriented, and a great supporter of folks through the VCDX mentoring and lots of other education mentoring programs.
Super useful, and content around business critical apps and Oracle and stuff like that. So he engages with the topic completely.
Yeah, I've known him for many years, and that I've hung out with him at VMworld a few times. Great guy, and that really nice guy to talk to, and that very good guy, and always has good content. All right, number 19, Virtuation is Life, Anthony Spiteri, and that moving pretty far up. He was at 44 last year, so moved up 25 spots. A lot of content, 123 blog posts in that, so doing a lot of great work there. This is another, I don't know if I've ever met Anthony at an event or in person in that. I've seen him in the community on Twitter and whatnot. And that, you guys familiar with him?
Anthony, he's from down under, so he may not be in the same city as you are most of the time. He's now working for Veeam, and again, a prolific blogger on many topics, which I find particularly interesting. Right, he covers a lot of different ground. He's very interested in cloud. He was with a cloud provider before, and it's super broad interests. And again, a great writer.
Yeah, definitely. Anthony's super active on Twitter, and he's very communicative, and he likes to collaborate. So great person to reach out to. So big congrats to Anthony on this one.
Yeah, for sure. Congrats, Anthony.
This is me, I guess, Andre Libovici, My Virtual Cloud. Andre was one of the original VDI bloggers back in the day, at maybe before VMware and at VMware. Andre recently left his role at Nutanix, is now a company Datrium, and again continues to talk about cloud, converged infrastructure, hyper, whatever you want to, different kinds of converged infrastructure, and is again super technical and super detailed in his posts. So he's a pretty incisive guy. Has some sharp opinions, I guess, and I mean that in the best way.
Yeah, it's interesting that you point that out, John, because what you find with a lot of the folks that are doing this is you really have to put yourself out there sometimes with a forward-leaning opinion, and the tough part about those things is they're not always popular ones, and they're not always right, and we all kind of we put ourselves out there on purpose, and it is really, I have a huge respect for folks that are very vocal and very strong on trying to help shape and drive the industry. And it's cool to see Andre's new role and stuff that he's done throughout his career.
Yeah, I've known him for many years too, and I've met him at VMworld a few times, and really good guy, and it's good to see, he's definitely progressed his career from, before VMware to VMware over to Datrium now. I know actually some of the folks at Datrium and if you look there on his page there, if you're a vExpert, they have a great giveaway too at VMworld, so you might want to check that out.
All right, the vNinja. So for folks that have not already read some of Christian's stuff, you should. He covers the gamut on content. Christian also very good he's very active on Twitter, great content creator, great community supporter, longtime vExpert. Probably one of the early voices that kind of challenged the transition and how the vExpert program was growing. And he was one of those folks that really kind of had us all ask, what are we doing what are we taking value out of it and feeding back into it? So Christian does a lot of really neat stuff. Also a wicked good photographer. So it's check out his 500px page, and he's got some really, really nice stuff. But yeah, super technical, very nice. I haven't had a chance to actually share a stage with him yet anywhere, but for folks, most likely you'd find him in Barcelona since he's over in the European side of the world. But yeah, Christian's been a longtime member of the community, and glad to see him here rolling into the top 25.
Yeah, he's very vocal, tells it like it is and he's definitely a great voice and great person in the community.
We should encourage him and his crew to podcast a little more with the vSoup. Right?
Yeah. I don't think they've done too many recently in that.
That's okay. It's okay to stop, right?
It
It's
is.
okay to stop things. It's
I
okay to
did.
stop the blog. It's okay to stop your podcast.
Yep.
I think everyone's a podcaster until episode 30 or so. Then it starts to wind out.
No, it is. All right. I think, Eric, you know this person, and congrats to Melissa Palmer in that. Moving up 14 spots, has a pretty decent Google page speed. And I know, I think, was it about a year or two ago, and that I think her blogging is fairly new. I think about 2 years ago when she started in that. So she's really progressed pretty well in that. Very well liked and well-known person in the community in that, and doing great with blogging.
Yeah, I think she premiered as the top new blogger, and it's really, really cool to see Melissa's work get the focus that it does, as well as she's gotten her VCDX in the last year. And talking about book publishing, she actually is she's publishing her first long form book. It's going to be available shortly, and that one's, if you go to itarchitectjourney.com, that's the official book site. And we'll be seeing some of that showing up at VMworld, which is very, very cool. So huge congratulations to Melissa on all she's done. And, keeping content flowing at that level is, I'm envious of her ability to keep it rolling.
Yeah, that's tough.
And we should also mention creative director for the Virtual Design Master project as well. I actually loved her, I think it's her most recent blog post or one in the last couple of days about goal setting. And she was offering to connect with people at VMworld about goal setting and to kind of talk about some of that sort of kind of meta conversation there.
Yeah, again, all the stuff that we do, if you'll see a theme in the folks that are continuous, consistent bloggers, is that they love to share their story and they love to listen to folks who want to share theirs. So, reach out, find these folks on the ground at VMworld and other events. We're a very open community. It's kind of funny because a lot of us are very introverted, but you get us in a room and we can all introvert together. It's kind of nice.
Congrats, Melissa.
Oh, I guess this is me. Sorry. Cody, this is very complicated. It's a rotation. And
yeah.
Cody Hosterman, we don't have a script for this in case anybody thought we might have. Cody Hosterman at Pure Storage. Cody has been doing some great stuff on vBlog, something that Eric Siebert knows well. And he is a consistent producer about things, again, beyond Pure Storage, as well as stuff that's going on at Pure. Nice guy, again, prolific, on the road, finds time to write, and a great kind of informative blog as well.
Yeah, he's definitely a lot of great stuff on vVols and that with Pure, and his blog posts are very in-depth technical in that. So I like a lot of his content in that. It's very if you're techie and like to dive deep into some of the technology, he does a great job of putting that to paper in that. And I don't think I've met him. Hopefully this year I'll meet him at VMworld, and he's come up a lot. He's moved up from not even in the top 50 up to 15 in that. So heard a lot of good things about him in the community, and I think he's getting a lot more visibility these days in that. And definitely he's doing a great job with blogging, and I think that shows here.
And I think if you look at it, Eric, this is one of the largest changes in the from previous year to current year rankings. So that's great to see folks who kind of just get that visibility that they should for creating such great content.
For sure.
And Magnus, so another again very prolific author. He's a very good voice in the community. He's VCDX, so he's got a great base of knowledge. Magnus's posts are really, really strong. Again, he covers the gamut. Lots of folks, you can see just by the screenshot there, lots of folks are sponsoring because of the visibility that Magnus has in the industry, and with good reason. So he's again, great community supporter in and out. People love reading his stuff. He loves encouraging other folks to write, and he's also good. You can kind of follow his Twitter, and he'll announce when he's going from place to place. Going out on the road. He's working for Nutanix, and he will get out there. But what's funny is you very, very rarely see Pure I should say pure, focused Nutanix content. He loves to do stuff that's very general, large industry stuff, which is very cool. Again, as a vendor, who we're working for a vendor and a blogger, finding that mix of content that's inside and outside the workplace, it's good. So Magnus strikes a great balance, and again, great person in the community.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, right, VCDX number 56. He's been early in the game, solid producer. Very kind of much like many of us, right, kind of quiet in person. And I mean, English isn't his first language, but he's speaks English fine. But in person, but on the blog, very kind of powerful and again, technical, prolific. So I love working with Magnus.
Yeah, great guy, and a lot of good content and great page speed score too. He's at 90%, one of the highest we've seen so far.
See those VCDXs, they know what they're doing.
They do. All right, at 13, Captain vSan, and now no longer Captain vSan. He's now over at Cohesity. Rollinson, and that, if you ever met Rollinson, he's a bundle of energy, and that he's just a great guy, and that I've hung out with him several times at VMugs and VM Worlds, and that really great presenter, speaker, and that is great at articulating things to people and explaining things to them, and that. So he's done a great job. He's consistently been in the top 20 in that, I think pretty much everybody in the community knows Rollinson.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Rollinson's he's a force to be reckoned with in a room. You can definitely know he's there. He's got such a great energy, and it's infectious. I love watching people kind of light up around him, and yeah, super technical. It's funny. Certain folks who are very vocal and very good at like strong forward presentations like Rollinson, you don't necessarily think that they're going to be deeply technical. And Rollinson covers the bases on all fronts. He's really good that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great communicator. Very technical, creative as well, right? You can see from his website. You can ask him. We won't. I'm trying to figure out how to not make fun of while not making fun of his athletic career. But he was also kind of he wrote some Microsoft books back in the day, and again has some perspective on what our this community and how it's evolving and things like that. So again, done a great job. And
yeah, for sure.
Is this me now?
That's you.
Okay, Derek Seaman, also at Nutanix. Again, an early VCDX. I'm not sure which number he is, but again, super solid, super technical. Not all about Nutanix. Not that there's anything wrong with that. About other topics as well. And again, just kind of exudes being he's smart, right? And you can tell when you talk to him. So VCDX number 125, we have been told by the chat.
It's on the screen there.
A solid, it's interesting, right? Nutanix. I worked with them, and they're all busy, right? They're all as busy as everybody else, but yet these guys, these guys manage to still produce content and that are deeply thoughtful and interesting. So, again, kudos to Derek.
Yeah, he came on strong a few years back, and that came out of nowhere and had these amazingly detailed series. He'd do like a 15 to 20 part series of the new vSphere version or installing, certificates for vCenter or something in that. So he's kept up a lot of great content. I was amazed at how much detail and how much, work he put in a lot of his posts in that. So always has a lot of great content out there.
Yeah, I can say without doubts that if you've tried to put certificates in a vSphere environment, you've read Derek's content because he has the de facto series that shows you from end to end how to do it. And what's really cool is that he's gone back and continues to update it as versions upgrade. So it's, again, as a creator, I've got content that I haven't touched in a long time that probably needs to be retouched, and I don't get a chance to go back. So big kudos to Derek for staying on top of new content and going back and re-upping on stuff that's already out there.
For sure.
And this is another one, a good friend of the community, Renee Vandenbedem. He's a physical fellow that you can't miss in a room. Renee has such a powerful personality that is beautifully emoted online. And so Renee's a VCDX. He's I believe a triple VCDX. And I apologize, I should know that off part. He's an NPX. He's a certification guru, loves to dig in, loves to learn, loves to share the experiences of learning. So if you've gone down the road with VCDX, you've inevitably read Renee's content because he's got such great guides on how to learn. Again, he creates an incredible amount of content. And now he's working, he's actually, I think, chief strategist at Round Tower Technologies. He was in Saudi Arabia for years, working at a large telco there, and came across recently stateside. So very cool. Luckily, a longtime supporter of Virtual Design Master, so I know Renee well. I've been lucky enough to chat with him lots, and we've co-created some content for Turbonomic as well through Round Tower. So he's definitely, he looks for opportunities to help many others, and you rarely see Renee running out to take credit for stuff. So he's solid community contributor.
Yeah, I met him for the first time in person. I think it was last year, and that I ran into him at VMworld and that, and really great guy. Really has done a lot with blogging and kind of moving up here and that, and really a great asset to the community.
Yeah, I'll add one thing that Renee came to the table with a lot of ideas, and he didn't say, "Well, I'm just going to put out some text blog posts." He's like, "How can I help? How could I involve myself? How could I volunteer? How could I involve others?" And I think, that creativity really impacted others, and I appreciated it, and I still do. Probably Virtual Design Master is one way, right? That he did that, but there were others. There were many others.
Definitely.
Congrats, Renee. On to the top 10. All right, at number 10, a whole group of guys, and that they've been consistently in the top 25, and that there's probably, about 6-7 guys that contribute to VM Guru, and that out of the Netherlands, and they do a lot of great content as well. And I think I've met a couple of the guys over the years at VMworld, and that, but they've always consistently have a lot of good content, and this is one where you don't see often, where it's a collective group of guys. Which I think helps really add to kind of diversity of a blog in that, there's different opinions, different writing styles, different, topics, because you have a group of guys working as a whole to produce content like this.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of group blogs going forward. I think we'll see more of them. It just makes sense, right, that you can all contribute. They all happen to kind of live and know each other, and many of them will work together, which helps. But I think I first met them in person at a VMworld Europe, and I honestly don't remember. I think it was maybe Alex and Anjan first, and they were sitting there. The PR people came out to me and said, "Who are these people sitting in our PR lounge? Because they're sitting there and they're working really hard, but we don't know who they are." And they were like, "We are working, like we are here at the show, and we are publishing stuff." And they were, and so they fit right into the rest of the journalists, but. Again, workmanlike, and we're wanted to get it done at the show, and that kind of care for publishing, right? Getting stuff out there.
Yeah, again, feverish on their ability to create content and relevant content. So it's most of us as technologists have bumped into the VM Guru site along the way. So it's we need a collective award sites, just alone for a few folks that do this kind of blogging. And for people getting started, this is a great way to reach out, and maybe there's others who can join you. If you don't think you can get to the kind of minimum number of posts a year, there are great other sites that are looking for collaborative content, and they're happy to take on contributors. So it's a good place to look for.
And they finally got vmguru.com from Scott Harold.
The original VM Guru, now at Red Hat. Yeah. And actually, Anjan is on chat, and he informs me that it was him and Eric Scholten. So let's give credit to where credit is due. That were
Hey, John, number 9.
Number 9. Oh, okay. I get prompted now. Thank you. Eric Shanks with the IT Hollow. Eric, again, not one of the original generation of kind of old school bloggers, but certainly has been around for a while. At Ahead, I believe, in Chicago, and or at least that's where they're headquartered. I actually forget where. I think he's from around there. Again, prolific, goes in deep in a number of different areas. I think people who do work at channel partners or whatever you want to, consulting companies, I hesitate to call them bars, do get an opportunity to kind of talk about a lot of different technologies and hopefully become a trusted advisor for the community and for their customers. Eric, consistently high quality and fairness in his coverage of the stuff he does cover. And also he had I remember from the very first, he had a very cool logo, and I remember his stickers from the very first video.
Yeah, with the tree.
The tree, yeah. He always kind of paid attention to the logo there, so I like that.
Yeah, if you look at Eric's, obviously this is pretty landmark move too, up 14 spots into the top 10. So this is a huge bump for Eric. Super glad to see him here. Again, great community contributor. I watched a lot of his presentations, learned a lot from him. He's very much forward leaning, but he's a forward leaning pragmatist. He's like me in the idea that know what's coming, but talk about what's today and understand how to bridge that gap. So Eric's content, especially around some of the HashiCorp toolkit and stuff that's outside the traditional vExpert, VMware ecosystem, he's really doing well at looking to the cloud, looking to other things. So as all of us evolve, Eric's kind of walking that journey with us and even a little bit ahead of a lot of folks. So it's good to keep your eyes on what he's writing about.
Yeah, great guy, and I met him a few times, I believe, at various events, and a lot of great content. And one thing that helped push him up into the top 10 was actually a lot of content with 91 posts last year, and then probably the best page speed score we've seen at 95%. So a very well optimized blog as well.
I think you and Eric Shanks and I should start a podcast. We can just call it the Erics.
And Eric Sloof.
That's right. We got a whole lot of Erics we can lean on.
I want to let me just leverage off something that Eric Wright said. This is a vBlogging community, but it's really about much more than virtualization. And I think that this is an example of there's a lot of content around DevOps, around scripting, around cloud technologies. I think people from outside the community might be surprised at the different sets of technologies that get covered. Now, I mean, there are people, who are very solidly covering, VMware tech or, one particular vendor, which is usually pretty interesting. But there's a huge range, and I love what you just said, Eric, pointing out that, there is a lot of DevOps coverage, scripting, automation, containers. There's a lot of work in the community on all those technologies.
Okay, where are we at? Is it my turn or?
This would be me.
Okay, there we go. Another Eric.
Now that we're talking Eric's, I think the best way I can do this for folks who've been able to see Eric in action, this is my quick impression. Hey, this is Eric. We're here at VMworld. You've seen him, and that's how I met Eric, was watching him run around with a selfie stick before there was such a thing as a selfie stick. Eric was such a high energy person at VMworld. He's a huge contributor to the community, obviously very strong in education. So Eric is a trainer, and he's a trainer inside and outside his day job. He shares his content broadly. He covers a lot of content, a lot of different topics. And, again, it's just such an amazing high energy. And one of those fellows, you just run up to him and say, hey, Eric, and he'll just give you the double hook 'em horns from across the room. He'll come and find you, get you on camera. Just a sign of folks that are never above where they started. Eric's always, out on the floor, meeting folks and staying close to people, learning how they learn, and then sharing that out with the broader community.
Yeah, he's one of the OG bloggers from back in the day and he's consistently produced a ton of content. He's the face of VMworld TV at, the various events. I've met him personally a few times, and great guy to meet, to talk to hang out with, and he's definitely one of those people that been around for a long time and has great longevity with his blogging.
Yeah, Eric is a trainer and goes deep in a lot of different areas. VMware leans on him, I think, sometimes for new tech to explain new tech. So again, super technical, former kind of media person, radio person, and still sometimes can get that voice, and an all-around nice guy. And again, has been, consistent and working in this community for years, which is, and, in tech is such a blessing, right, for all of us, right, that if we're able to have that kind of
For sure.
together.
Is this
Maybe to the next, Eric.
okay. So number 7, I think everybody knows Chad in the community, and that Chad is one of those dynamic, energetic guys that he goes on stage, he just captures people's attention, and I've met him many times. I've sat with him had a drink with him many times, and great guy. And that I don't think you can meet a nicer guy. And that he's just very down to earth, willing to talk to people, and that he's really advanced his career way up across EMC and that, and all the way to where he's at now at a VP level and that. But his content is always, and I think people have asked us before, does he write his own content? Because a lot of it's based on EMC stuff and whatnot. But his content is he said yes, by the way, is very detailed, very long, goes, explains a lot of different things and that, and always enjoy kind of reading what he puts out there.
He writes very prolifically, often on planes, because he's a lot on planes. Now, people do feed him, test data and graphs and things like that. It does not all spring sui generis from his brain, but super. I love an executive that can kind of grapple with communicating in this style. I wish more executives would. As an executive, he can't always, he has to say things sometimes in a calculated way to explain what the heck is going on with Dell and Dell EMC. But I feel like always, that you can tell where he's coming from and what his opinion is. And again, a super clear explainer and straight shooter in this aspect. So I wish. And also approachable, right? He's approachable to people in the ecosystem, even though he is, a big deal and super busy with a huge org.
He definitely is.
Yeah, Chad's one of those fellows who, not just because he's Canadian is he's really cool, but it does help. Like you said, John, his ability to really, he does a great job of telling a story in a very human, real voice. And it's not press release. Like there are points when I'm sure he's on an investment call and he's got to sound like straight out of the PR. But when it really comes down to he's out and with you, I've been on a run with him. I've sat for a drink with him. Again, same thing is he's very real about how he approaches things and he's not afraid to say stuff that have been, gotten some opinions rolling. But what's even cooler is that, as Chad's also said, hey, maybe we weren't right about how we approach something. He's very, very good about taking those learnings back and being very open and honest about it.
Okay. Number 6.
Why do I take this one? I know this guy, Eric Siebert. He's been around for a long time. He was a great IT administrator who had automated and configured his whole data center so much so and so well that he had time to start blogging and writing books. From there, he built a web portal that was super important in gathering the community. And he was always really good at, how did I describe you, Eric? You are super good at aggregating resources. You have a proclivity to be like an encyclopedist. I think maybe in the Middle Ages, you would have been compiling an encyclopedia. Anyway, thank you for all you've done. Also, consistent blogger now, at HPE, talking about storage and vVols. And also, you have done super important work over the last year or two talking about vMugs, both from the participant side, the vMug organization, and also tips to other vendors. And I have shared those posts with many people. So thank you for that, sharing your opinions on that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pleasure to share this virtual stage with you, Eric. It's, watching your content from early on, you inspired a lot of us to do what we do in the community and to share our stories. And And again, there's rarely a day when I do a search on a piece of content and I don't find your blog in those top results. You create great content, and your community support with this and many other things is, if I could stand on a chair and say, oh, captain, my captain, I would, but I may hurt myself live on TV, and I don't want to do that. So thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you guys. And I've been doing this since I think about 08 is when I started blogging, VMwareland.com back then. It's a lot of work, and that I enjoy it though, and that I keep it going. I keep motivated to do this stuff, and appreciate the community kind of thanking me and kind of rallying and making this all worthwhile. One thing I'll note is 3 Erics in the top 10. Eric Wright, you need to get your act together.
I know where I'm aiming for next year.
Top 5. Here we go.
Here we go.
And, here we are coming in at number 5. So Scott Lowe is, again, he's a name brand in the industry. He's a name brand twice because we have another Scott Lowe. So for those folks who get confused, sometimes there is Scott Lowe and then other Scott Lowe. So I like to call this Scott Lowe other Scott Lowe. Scott is, again, a very, very powerful voice in the community in so many ways. Technical content is really, really cool. If you look at the technology adoption lifecycle and that curve, if you look where Scott's content tends to be, it's very early adopter. But there's very little doubt that you're going to see it on the other side as real content. He's really leading the charge on where technology is going. He's also doing a lot to make sure he brings us all along with him through that journey. So, find Scott at an event, sit for some of his sessions. I watched him at an event. It was he was talking about NSX early on, and somebody from one of the big telcos came in and was sure that he was going to upend this marketing guy. And he dug in hard at like protocol, packet level, depth of like, how is packets going to go across? Like, it was incredible. And I watched Scott very handily said, that's a great question. So here's exactly how and really took it in stride until this fellow actually physically walked out angry from this room, So he's got a great way to tell the story. He understands the technology from foot to head, and he really, really is a great person. So as well, Crystal, his wife, runs Spousetivities. So for folks that want to come to an event like VMworld Europe, as well as OpenStack Summit, and many, many other things, check out Spousetivities. So for the folks that I always enjoy, because I went to NetApp Insight with my spouse, and I got to be the spouse. I debated on going on the Spousetivities with all the crew. So it's a few steps to Scott for his content, and to Crystal for all that they both do for the community.
Mm-hmm. Scott is the kind of person, he's one of the few people I know that can live blog effectively. He will sit in a session if he's in blogging mode and will take notes during the session and then publish the post immediately afterwards. And he has both listened and captured and understood and then communicated what the speaker was talking about in some ways more effectively than the speaker. Also, Scott is always kind of investigating what's next. He was early in vSphere, had one of the earliest vSphere books or ESX books. I'm not even sure how early that was. But also, he's now looking at automation. He's looking at containers. He's looking at open source and how that, and getting, and AWS and different clouds, and really kind of being very hands-on in these new sets of technologies. So again, if you go to his blog, expect to be seeing what he's working on these days, and that's a lot of new tech.
Yeah, and I think Scott is probably one of the very first bloggers to blog about virtualization, and that he's been doing it for a long time. And has been really consistent with his posts and what he writes. He lives 30 minutes from me, but I only see him like once or twice a year at events, but very approachable guy, and that, very smart. He's really transitioned his interest areas over the year, and that from, some of the core stuff to networking to, like you said, containers, DevOps, and beyond, and that. So definitely worthy of this 5 spot.
Who's next?
Eric with number 4.
All
right.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Eric Siebert for number 4.
Okay, I got 4.
You're our
I know Chris well. I first met him at HP Discover many years ago, and I know he's fairly new in the blogging and that, but he came on really strong, and I think it really built up his career in the community and professionally pretty rapidly. In that, I think he's been blogging for about 4 or 5 years now, and that his content's amazing. In that he puts out a ton of great detailed content, has a lot of good opinions, thinks outside the box, and definitely I think is worthy of where he's at, because he's really consistently produces amazing content. Great speaker. If you ever gone to any events like vMugs and whatnot and seen him, does a great job articulating concepts, simplifying things, and explaining things to people.
Mm-hmm. In a way that maybe I could compare to Duncan Epping. Chris started blogging with kind of a very, professional, and I'm going to say workmanlike, and I mean that in the best possible way, attitude of like, I am going to produce, I am producing content, right? His blog is the Wall Network, right? He was like, we're gonna go big and really help people in a big way. He is another person that can sit in a room and live blog and come out with a finished product. Very prolific, works with bloggers at Rubrik, just as also a super nice guy. Again, sharp communicator and puts butt in seat and works, right? So I as somebody who doesn't always produce consistent blogs and newsletters and videos and podcasts, I admire all of the folks in this top 50 who are able to produce regularly.
Yeah, Chris's content is deep, it's broad, it's all of the things that we love about his coverage of stuff, and like you said, his live blogging is great. So keep your eyes on it. He both gets advanced content and just works on the fly. And again, Chris is such a great community contributor. I personally am lucky to have had him help me with things along the way and really give guidance on stuff. It's he's one of those folks. He helped with Virtual Design Master in season 1. So one of those people that said, yeah, let's try this, and it's been a great community supporter across the board.
Okay, number 3.
I'll take Cormac and we'll go on from there. Cormac at VMware in the storage unit has been there quite a while and talking storage. And I think I think maybe sometimes people put him in the shadow of Duncan Epping and Frank Denneman, who are super prolific. But I think Cormac maybe started his blog a little bit later. But as I was kind of running the VMware blogs and kept noticing Cormac's content, and now on his own site as well, Cormac is a really good blogger and a really deep blogger, and is really a kind, generous with his attention. Right? He doesn't just blog about VMware stuff. He blogs about the other people in the ecosystem and other vendors. He is a good explainer. He recently has been doing more on cloud native apps and containers. Has not stuck with one thing. And again, I think is very future oriented and very, puts in the time and has kept that creativity and curiosity over the years.
Yeah, his posts are very detailed, and I love the kind of behind the scenes stuff at VMware, where he'll go into technology or an aspect of it that sometimes we don't have visibility into, and that. So a lot of great, he does a lot of great quality posts in that, and a lot of stuff around storage. I always enjoy reading his stuff when I'm looking for something. Typically, it's found on his blog. So does a great job of putting a lot of that stuff to his blog, and great guy too. I've met him several times at VMworld. Really approachable, great to talk to, and that, and just great all around person.
He's one of those guys. You can actually say that when you see him outside the conference, he literally lets his hair down. It's Cormac's. You see him on the job, off the job, but truthfully, the way he talks and the way he shares with us, it's the same story. Again, great community contributor, great fellow, and great technologist. So it's great to see Cormac. I think he appeared in the top with his first year as a top vBlog participant. So it's nice to see him holding those top spots.
Yeah, he's the only one that didn't change in the top 10.
Small aside, true story. One of the reasons I cut my ponytail off is that Facebook would sometimes mistake pictures of me for pictures of Cormac.
And picture, who's the other? John Arasad?
And John Rashid, yeah. But Facebook was not good at that.
I actually mixed them up one year, way back.
Number 2.
Coming in at number 2. This is very cool. Now I have to give a bit of a shout out, because there's no doubt when you look at Vladim's page that as a Turbonomic staffer and a community supporter, I have 2 very strong reasons why I love Vladim's content. And truthfully, again, just to take a moment of why Turbonomic and why my community folks really drive what we want to do to support this ecosystem. It's incredibly important to how we all came up as technologists and how the industry keeps evolving. And the reason why you see Turbonomic logos all over the place here is because we love to support. We look at other folks like Veeam, Rubrik is growing in what they do, Nikivo, lots of great familiar faces you'll see in ad spots. And it helps to drive the ability for these folks to create content and not have to think about cost. At the very least, we definitely want to give them the support they need to keep doing what they do, because it helps the industry at large. Vladim's content he covers the bases. Again, you do a search for Home Lab, you're going to find Vladim in your top 4 always. You do a search for any of a number of different subjects. He's grabbing the latest, greatest news. He's grabbing deeper content. He's covering the bases on all sorts of different stuff. Also, Vladim has the ability to deliver in multi-languages. So you have to have huge respect for somebody that writes an English blog when it's not his native language. I have an English blog and I barely can speak English. It's my first language and I couldn't produce as much content as Vladim does. So again, also, I was lucky enough to meet him at Tech Field Day once. Super nice fellow, great community supporter, and such a strong voice. And you could just take a look at the content count of what he produces. He's a strong contributor on just raw content.
Right. And I will say, I think I say every year, on my bucket list is still to travel to La Reunion and visit him. And now he's got an Airbnb, so I'd love to stay there. But Vladim has been doing this for a long time, and so there has built up an incredible library of content. He drives a lot of traffic. He has a lot of content, a lot of visitors, which makes him a very good explainer for a lot of things and portal for a lot of VMware technologies and other technologies. Again, and as well as a great writer and consistent producer. It's just and I think shows the value of sticking with something. Right? He's really been able to arrive at a place that's very good.
And he's resisted migrating to ESXi. You want ESX? Yeah, I envy.
Go ahead.
The amount of content he produced. I don't know how he finds the time to produce that much stuff. And it's not just about the numbers that he does. It's a lot of pretty in-depth how-tos, detailed things in that. So, amazing content. If you're looking for something, there's a good chance you'll find it on his blog. So he does a phenomenal job of, staying organized, producing a lot of variety of content, and a lot of great information there.
Lots of screenshots, very visual. Again, yeah, lots of explainers. Wonderful.
All right, number 1. Who's left? Who could it be now? Let's see. Yeah, there's some fireworks there.
Fireworks.
It took me a while to figure out how to build fireworks in the PowerPoint, but William Land, he's been right on that edge of being number 1 for many years in that. And another guy, his content's, if you're looking for things, chances are you're going to find it on his blog, and that he does a lot of amazing content around scripting and automation and that running nested ESXi. His amount of content and the depth of his content is just incredible in that, and very worthy of this number 1 spot, as he puts a lot of time, and seems like, into his posts. Working at VMware, he has a lot of behind the scenes viewpoints and insights into a lot of the stuff he writes about, how to do things that most people don't know how to do. It's kind of maybe hidden to people to do. through scripting and automation. So, so congrats, William, and that definitely very well deserved, and great job.
Yeah, one thing I want to add to, when we see the folks that are in the #1 spot, obviously you look at the vote count. We look at some people who kind of look and they say, well, there's no doubt that he's going to get these kind of votes because he works at VMware. That's truly not the reason why William gets the focus that he does. His content genuinely stands on its own. The fact that he's inside VMware is one thing, but he's always been such a great contributor of content. Like you said, Eric, it's his depth of content is very technical, covers lots of automation scripting. The reason why everybody's able to confidently vote him up is because they've all read and used his posts and succeeded in their job somehow because of the way that William has helped both, on his blog and in person. Again, super nice fellow. Also, he's a cyclist. I give him extra points just for being a cyclist, and I think we need to add that for a category next year. We get an extra point for that one. But yeah, William's super cool. And again, I don't know when he sleeps. Because he creates a ton of content inside and outside.
Yeah. I think the story is that when he joined VMware, he was a little bit embarrassed that engineers had a few of his blog posts taped to the wall beside their desk, right, to use as references, because he had, scoped out some of the APIs and method calls and things like that. So again, he brings what I call a blogger's mentality inside VMware. I am no longer inside VMware, so I cannot see. But when I was there and watching him in action, right, there is the bloggers to a person, right, have a tendency to be self-generating. They have a bias towards action and a bias towards sharing their opinion and sharing an observation. And so when you bring that inside a company, sometimes very, very good things can happen. He works on a team that often gives feedback to the engineering team about what's working and what's not. And that he's not afraid to, at least when I was watching, to kind of work outside of his swim lane and to be able to, because he cares about the product and he cares about the customers and he cares about making a great experience and great technology. And that just shows. And I think all the bloggers today, and I know we've got a few other categories, show that you don't do this if you don't care, right? Whether you're saying good or bad things about a company, as an external person, you do it because you care and you want to share and you want to help people. And I think, that consistently is my observation over the last 10, 15 years. But bringing it back to William, kudos, right? This amazing blog, amazing resources. He works like hell and produces amazing content and helps a lot of people.
Definitely. Yeah, I've had people in my company send links to emails to his stuff too as well, and that when they're trying to figure out how to do something. So very well, recognizing his content is, I think, a huge asset to the community. Okay, do the categories real quick, and then we're out of here. All right, 8 categories, 2 new ones this year. We had female non-English. So winner of favorite female blogger from the home office in Oklahoma or whatever. VMS.
Wow, there we go. So,
congrats.
That's cool.
Favorite storage blog. Cormac. Of course.
Awesome. Well deserved.
He's won, I think, every year. Favorite non-English blog, another new category. vInfrastructure blog. And that's Italian, right?
That is, yeah. Andrea produces content in Italian and English, so it's very, very cool.
Cool. Favorite scripting blog? Sure, we can guess who that one is. Mr. William Lamb.
Again, well deserved.
For sure. Favorite new blog? So this was a blog that was started last year. And that is, and every year we have about 50, 60 or so new blogs added. 24/7 IT Connection, Teresa Miller.
Teresa's great and really kind of deep and thoughtful. So she has a great blog. I recommend everybody check it out.
Yeah. I think that's one isn't there multiple people writing it? That's a group blog as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that contribute. In fact, Melissa's content is on there. We've got a lot of others. So Pumala Schmidt as well. She writes for Teresa's blog. So a lot of collective voices there, and which is good because you get a lot of different subjects that get covered.
Yeah. Favorite podcast? The Brown Bag. And I'll mention there that Virtually Speaking was a very close second on this one.
Wow. Nice. From Pete Fletcher and John Nicholson at VMware.
Yeah.
Really nice blog to check out.
Favorite news information website? The Reg.
We kind of always have a chuckle. I call it the TMZ of technology. And those folks, they know how to get the inside scoop. It's always
things up.
And some good headline writers.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Where else? You're not going to get that at most. Even the trade rags, right? Don't cover it like a few of the writers there do. So.
Yeah, they do a good job behind the scenes stuff and breaking news. Favorite independent blogger, and this one is always, so many people, that indie pool gets smaller and smaller as a lot of people go, they get recognized and go to big companies and that, but still a fairly big group out there. Favorite indie blogger is Laden. So congrats for Laden.
He works for himself, and he's got a great boss.
Yeah. All right, congrats to everybody, and that I'll be publishing the full results, all the 200 and some positions and categories and all that stuff, probably later today or tomorrow. Remember, keep on blogging. It's not about getting there fast; it's about doing it over. If you look at some of the bloggers, the top 25, they've been doing it a long time and worked hard to get to where they're at. And we're definitely going to be doing this again next year. Any thoughts, John? Colin?
Hey, thanks to both of you for support and for keep on doing this. Again, there are rewards even before you get to the top 25, right? It is a very gratifying hobby and adjunct to your profession to be a communicator. And I'll circle around with some more thoughts as well. But congrats to everybody, right? This is nights and weekends and time away from loved ones. I encourage everybody to keep their work-life balance in mind, but at the same time, I think the folks should recognize the hard work that goes into this, and for the benefit of the community. So thank you all.
Yeah, definitely the road to being a blogger is hitting publish. There is nothing special about this. I look back at my early blog posts and I'm bordering on embarrassed on some of those early writings because I was just learning, and learning in the public eye is a very, very great way to help yourself. And most of the folks that you see in this like literally hundreds of people that are in this list have changed jobs and gotten advancements in their career as a direct result of the way they've created content. And there's no doubt that you can win. And again, reach out to any of the three folks you see here. We're all very publicly available. I'm at Disco Posse on Twitter. You can drop me Eric at discoposse.com. Obviously, John, you've farmed this community in a lot of ways, and Eric, you've highlighted the folks that are involved. We are all willing to help you to walk those first steps and to grow. There's lots of mentors in the community, and we all love bringing other people forward with us.
Yeah, great. And congrats to everybody. And, thanks, Turbonomic, for your support. And we'll see you all next year.
We'll see you in 2018.
Yep.
Cheers all. See you in the VM world as well.
Yep.
Take care.